Táilteann Isteach, welcome to The Lagan Stream, which explores the key issues in the great city of Belfast. And on each edition of this podcast, we will spotlight the bridge builders, peacemakers and leaders who are promoting Belfast as a modern tech city with unlimited promise. In particular, we'll provide a platform for voices from our global Irish family, drawing heavily on events and conferences hosted by our sister organisations, Ashling Events, Belfast Media, and in New York, the Irish Echo. This week on the Lagan Stream podcast, we're delighted to bring you a lively and captivating discussion from the Irish Roundtable in the Valley, which was hosted by Ashling Events in Stanford University, California, on the 9th of May 2024. In the chair is Chris Ehrlich, Editor-in-Chief of tech news publication VKTR, and our panellists are Andrea Hohan, Head of Americans with Invest Northern Ireland, Ivan Houlihan, Head of the West Coast USA and IDA Ireland, and Michael Madden, Head of the School of Computer Science in University of Galway. The panel was rounded out by Giancarlo De Vice of Unisquare, a company headquartered in Guadalajara but with offices across the Americas and in Belfast, Ireland.
Yeah, so let's just dive in and get into attracting AI companies scaling internationally. Giancarlo, we'll go with you first. So just want to know, what are some of the key AI market issues right now that you think are maybe slowing growth in AI or could slow growth in AI from a market standpoint?
Yeah, I think one of the main concerns that I have right now that I'm seeing from my clients is the confusion on where to apply AI into, right? Everybody wants to do something. There's confusion on what to apply it to. I thought, Workhelix, what they're doing is pretty interesting based on that, right? And yeah, I think helping clients figure out where the application, proper application at this time with the current, regulation or lack of regulation, where that would have a good place in their organizations would be very, very powerful.
Thanks. And then Michael in higher education, same question to you. You have extensive training in machine learning. What do you see mechanically, technically speaking, for context in terms of the marketplace when we're talking about bringing companies? What are some of those issues that you think they're seeing market-wise, where they're saying, if this were solved or this were better, this is relevant to the discussion of where we exist and where we locate?
Well, I think thanks for that. I think the main blockers that companies are concerned about are compute and data, because that's, AI is built on compute and data. And for example, in training of AI systems, of language models, all available text has already been used in training, and so that raised questions, okay, well, how do we get incremental improvements? And so that'll probably go to, there's the next step now is training on video and images and those kind of things. Much richer data can convey a lot more about the world, but requires enormously more storage. And so this will create, for companies and for countries, demands around data storage, around energy usage, and so on. And then linked to that is the whole need for compute power. And so we already had discussion earlier on about NVIDIA and their kind of, sort of dominant position in the compute market. That's a challenge. We tend to, in computer science, kind of build software that just about runs and then hope that, the compute companies will make all the hardware run faster in the next year, and then our software will run nicely. But we're up against the limits of compute power now, and I think this will require algorithmic developments in machine learning to really drive a step change there, I think.
Awesome. Thanks, Michael. Yeah, very good points. And just to follow up on that, Giancarlo, in terms of regulations, so we've heard about regulation, again, from a private sector perspective. How much do you see that impacting where you or any of your counterparts would locate or consider locating?
Right now, the impact is limited, right? And so the worry, I think, or what industry has to be looking at is, what are the things that they're going to implement in the next 2 years that maybe regulation will pull back on, right? So the way that you're using this is no longer, we can no longer continue to do that. So you need to remove certain aspects of what you've already implemented. So that's why starting carefully on things that are very likely to be lowly regulated in certain industries is potentially or ideally the way to go, right?
Yeah, very, very smart. Yeah, and then in terms of the U.S., so we heard a little bit about, right now the U.S. has a big advantage in terms of, like, it's almost 3-to-1 in terms of the number of LLMs that have been produced, foundational LLMs produced in the U.S., and then China is second, and a distant second, and then the U.K. is a distant third, and that was in the Stanford AI Index that was cited earlier today. So is that, do you think, anyone here but the two of you on the end, is that, you think, an issue to where nationally, if that isn't addressed, say, in Ireland, does that become an issue where you don't have any of the foundation models, or you don't have that sort of base innovation happening?
I certainly think there's a need within Europe to develop at a European level our own infrastructure and our own technology systems to act as another world power, another counterbalance to developments in other countries. I'm not sure whether Ivan...
Yeah, no, I would agree with that, but I think typically what we've seen in kind of technology revolutions, that the innovation starts here in the US. And I think where Ireland and Europe comes into play is, how do these US companies scale internationally? So when they get to the stage that they want to be commercial, the likes of OpenAI, that they need to have a presence in Europe, where do they look to? And they look to the island of Ireland. That company did that last year. So I wouldn't be so concerned about having the LLMs be developed in the US, because typically we see the innovation happen here. It's about how do we partner with those companies to scale internationally and help them achieve further success. That would be my view on it. Okay,
great. Thanks, everybody. Let's jump to the next one. And this is, we'll start with Ivan here. In terms of what is the island's competition right now? So if we look at really attracting companies to the island of Ireland, who are you competing with nationally, country-wise? Who are they?
Yeah, well, as I said, I think like the innovation is certainly here in the US, here in Silicon Valley. You're seeing some come from China as well. I think any project that's mobile, there's a certain amount of competition for it. But I think our view of the world and how IDA operates, it's not about taking investment from the US. It's about partnering with those companies to achieve global success. And we've been doing that for 75 years plus. We have a rich history here in Silicon Valley. We've been in Silicon Valley for 40 plus years and have helped companies, scale when they're at a very young stage to go into Ireland and to tackle the European market and to go to market, to build customers and to build innovation there. And those operations continually evolve in Ireland. I think if we look at one case in point, it's Facebook, now called Meta. When they first established in Ireland, they only employed 300 people globally. Most of those were in Silicon Valley. That company now employs thousands of people in Ireland. So it's about trying to lean into those companies that are being innovative here and to help them scale internationally. And we have a team on the ground that are talking to these companies daily, both AI, technology, life sciences, fintech, and to help them. So we see ourselves as more of a strategic partner.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, and Andrew, same question for you in terms of, if you look at Europe specifically, or other countries within the EU, and then beyond Europe, who are you really competing with when you try to talk with companies? Who do you see as competition?
Yeah, again, like Ivan, I don't think we really look at it like that in terms of competition. We really do look at where can we add added value to a company as they expand their presence internationally. And, we are seeing actually, I suppose, increased competition, if you will, from within the US itself. What I would say, I've been doing this about 17 years or so now, and in many ways, in terms of economic development, for example, we really didn't have competition from individual states because, quite frankly, there were international investors who would say to me, well, why are we not doing the kind of work that you guys are doing? I think they are now, so we are seeing individual states step up, and some more of a nearshoring experience that they're offering companies from Silicon Valley and so on. But I think, like Ivan, what we offer is when they're looking at their international expansion, we're offering them a partnership that they can't get here internationally, and that follow the sun model and that extended support of their customer base around the world, which they can't do solely from the US. I think from our perspective, perspective, we're constantly looking about how can we be better partners for companies. And when we look at the AI space, for example, we have looked to say, well, what do we need to do to see the wider adoption and acceleration of AI within our sectors, within our region. And so we've looked towards, building, again, on a partnership model, collaboration centres in Northern Ireland that will see government, industry and academia work closely together with new investors to ensure that we're producing the right skills a company needs, that we are developing a critical thinking amongst our population, which is the kind of skill, we were talking about skills earlier on, and I know Tom spoke very eloquently about this, but there really is an element. We have a really rigorous academic system across the island of Ireland. What we probably lack, in all honesty, is that sort of support and evolution of critical thinking amongst our young people. I think that's a critical skill that we're looking to develop through those collaboration centres and a greater focus in R&D, and as I say, working together with industry, academia and government to ensure we're producing the people that companies need.
And then staying with public sector economic development, so Ivan, and then if we look at what are the main levers that you have at play to really recruit or engage companies to say, okay, well, come to the island or work with us or have satellites elsewhere but tied to Ireland? What are the levers that historically and then now today you can really employ in talking with AI?
I think companies have historically looked to Ireland for talent, number one. But it goes beyond talent, and I'll come back to that in a second. But I think one of our biggest advantages has been, a member of the European Union and a very vocal and active member of that European Union, the only English-speaking member to do so. But also our track record in terms of winning investment. As I mentioned, we're in business 75 years. We're the first agency of our kind to be ever established to go out and sell a country for foreign direct investment. So we've built up huge expertise in that intervening period. And a lot of those companies that set up 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago are still investing in Ireland. So there's a trust in the Irish system, the government, the people, the talent, the workforce. And we're continually evolving. So initially it was a low-cost manufacturing, but now we go to Ireland today and it's a very multicultural, multidisciplined, vibrant ecosystem. But it's really the talent. Ireland is an attractive tax rate. It's part of the OECD agreement on international tax. But really companies are talking to us now about talent. And we're doing a lot on AI. We have been for a number of years. Companies, regardless of their industry, are working in AI. So I think our companies that have operations in Ireland and companies that are new to Ireland are coming there for talent. So that's one of the big levers that we have.
Great. Okay, and the same for you, Andrea. What do you see with your organization, your agency, typically are levers to talk to?
Can I just say basically what Ivan said? Because that's basically it. Look, I think any of the companies that come to the northern and across the island, they're looking for talent, good quality talent, and we produce that in great quantities. There's always a pinch point with certain types of talent, so we always have to be looking for the future, and we also have to be looking to see ways in which we can help companies grow new talent. So, for example, we have a program called Assured Skills, and it does what it says. It assures companies when they come in, they're going to get the talent that they need because we train the talent in conjunction with the company. It's sort of a bespoke training program, if you will, at no cost to the company. And that has been an incredibly successful program for us in terms of assuring companies when they come in, they're going to have a work-ready population to get going straight away. So talent is the key driver. We have financial and non-financial measures, but in all honesty, if you can't get the people, all of those sort of things feel sort of pale in insignificance. I think, again, back to the point that I made, it's so important to see government, industry and academia working together. It's no point in kids going off to university and so on and being trained in I guess, roles that, quite frankly, will not actually exist in 5-10 years' time. So we have to ensure that we're listening to industry and working alongside industry to ensure that our ecosystem and our talent pool is what industry is going to need in the years ahead. And again, to Ivan's point, the track record of success, that's what's important to companies coming in. Whether it's a small company or a large company, it's a massive decision to make to choose a particular region of the world over another region. And what we have now is 70% of our international investors reinvest multiple times. So you've companies companies coming in, for example, like Citigroup, who come in and we're going to create 375 jobs. They now have 4,000 jobs in Northern Ireland. You know, companies, incredible companies like Kainos, who've constantly been reinventing themselves, reinvesting and growing over that time. That imbues an incredible sense of trust and confidence in other potential investors. So we rely very heavily on our track record of success.
Wow, okay, thank you. I know Ivan has kind of alluded to that in the past when I connected with him. And then briefly, then Ivan, if you could just, for the audience, just talk a little bit about taxes and financial incentives and tax breaks, tax rates, and typically how that might have been used as an instrument and versus today, and with all companies and AI in particular now.
Yeah, like I suppose if you look at Ireland's economic growth over the last 30 or 40 years, a lot of it can be contributed to the talent, number one, but to the incentives that were on offer as well, and that are still there. So we have a tax rate of 12.5%. We're part of the OECD agreement, so if you're a company that has $1 billion in revenue, you fall under a 15% threshold. But there's other incentives there, and a 30% R&D tax credit if you're doing R&D in Ireland. There's training incentives as well. And then there is some financial incentives from IDA Ireland if you choose to set up in a location outside of Dublin. A big part of our mandate is to create regional investment across the country, so there is incentives there. But, you know, the incentives aren't huge. It's really, you know, as Andrea spoke to, you know, it's really about the talent and the infrastructure. You know, some incentives on top are good, but the incentives, you know, kind of complete the whole picture. So we're a strong advocate for competition on tax, and we will remain so. It has built our economic base, but now we're kind of building for the future with the new technology, new skills, and very positive about that.
Great, okay, thank you. And then Giancarlo, for you, if in terms of the private sector, again, as a business owner, what do you look for with these kind of counterparts or colleagues to say, okay, they're working at the economic development agencies, they're talking with me. What do you need from them in terms of value to say, okay, well, I'll consider that conversation or that dialogue to locate on the island or elsewhere?
Yeah, we have a playbook on how to look at locations. In full honesty, I think these are the two best agencies that I've worked with. We didn't end up opening in the Republic of Ireland, so we opened it with Invest and I, but we've opened in 7 or 8 locations around the world, right? And so the playbook that they have to open a location is very strong. I haven't seen anything similar. There's similarities in other countries and other locations, but nothing as complete as what both the South and Northern Ireland offer. I think it comes back to there's a constraint, in my opinion, in what we've experienced in Belfast is a constraint on volume of talent, right? And so that's a heavy constraint that has inflated costs pretty significantly, and I think it's happened also in the South, but pretty significantly over the last. We've been operating there for probably 6-7 years now, so it's inflated costs pretty significantly over that period of time. And there continues to be, maybe not so much as of late, maybe in the last 6 to 12 months, but before that, a significant amount of companies coming in, which is it's positive, but it also causes an exacerbation of the inflation that was going to happen naturally, right, of costs. So I think it, in my opinion, it truly comes back to Tom was saying that in his talk. It's the education system is very, very old. Right, so it needs, in my opinion, there needs to be a significant change in the education system because they're everywhere in the world. What we are receiving from universities is people that we have to substantially retrain and substantially, invest for the first couple of years into things that should be foundational these days.
Wow. Okay. Thanks. And then in terms of the playbook that you mentioned. When you go through it, which are the ones that you think are more important or less important? You kind of touched on it, but in terms of the traditional levers, when you're looking at this level of emerging tech, do you say, okay, well, I'm strictly focused on the workforce and higher volume of workforce, or do you lean on expect any of those other levers?
To us, it's more about making it easy for us to access the country, access the access the different aspects that we need to set up in the country quickly. We don't really need money and not really a lot of support other than getting the right connections to the right people across the location where we're going to operate, right? So it's, again, literally getting set up with the right accounting firms and lawyers and universities, and and that's what they've done. Like, both of them do that, in my opinion, very well.
Great. Okay, thanks. And then, Michael, looking to you in terms of higher education specifically, what do you see as its role in economic development, in terms of working with the public sector and making the island more attractive to AI companies? What is your charge realistically as a university system?
Well, I think the main things we've heard from Andrea and Ivan are about talent and ecosystem. And I'm extremely biased on this, but I feel the university is right at the heart of delivering on both of those. We obviously deliver on talent. That's our job, is to train the next generation of graduates. And, I feel, as Professor of Computer Science in Galway, I take that very seriously. We're constantly engaging with companies to understand where are the talent gaps, what are the new trends, what are the things we need to think about. You've talked about volume talent. We've heard that in Galway. We responded very strongly on that by developing new programs and opening our doors very strongly to international graduates who then come to Galway, study in Galway, and then move to work in the kind of Galway region or elsewhere on the island of Ireland, and we see that as a great success. My viewpoint on our graduates and on our education is that I don't think we're stuck in kind of a wartime model of education. I think we try to be very adaptive, very innovative in our approaches and responsive in our approaches. And my motivation is always that I want my graduates to have really great jobs that they can work in, and that means being in a region surrounded by really exciting companies and lots of different opportunity. And so whatever we can do to support that, I'm in favor of. And so from that, so as well as talent, then we have to have this ecosystem. And we try to do that a lot in Galway, of kind of nurture the ecosystem, connect with companies, be the connector for companies, or organize an AI forum that's been run for about 3 years now, where we bring all the companies in the region who participate, give talks to each other, share knowledge. Even competitors are talking and learning from each other. And that's all about growing the ecosystem. And I think if we can actively nurture talent and ecosystem, then we can be successful. And that's what we see. This is why Stanford is a great place, why Silicon Valley is great, is because of Stanford and Cal being kind of the beating hearts of this ecosystem.
And just briefly, Michael, if you could just touch on the humanities, or the role of humanities, and I know that's not your discipline, but in terms of your colleagues and the university, it may be a strength historically for Ireland to have that, and that it's turning out that those kind of disciplines are actually very useful and applicable right now with AI, and will continue to be in terms of humanizing.
Absolutely, and I see we're about to be yanked off stage. So, yes, look, the humanities, as you say, it's been a kind of a recognised feature of Ireland. We're very fortunate. Galway is a traditional university, 175 years old, a kind of a full-scale universities with humanities and sciences, engineering, medicine, and computer science. And therefore we kind of reach across the university, collaborate and engage with everybody in our research and in our teaching. For example, we launched a few years ago, 5-6 years ago now, a master's in artificial intelligence, and I felt it was essential that ethics and law would be not just an option there, but one of our compulsory courses. And so I was able to reach to our colleagues in the humanities too, so that we've got a professor of philosophy delivering on the ethics module and a professor of law delivering on the law module. And so I think it is very important. We need to keep with the humanities.
Great. Thank you, panel.
Thanks for listening to this edition of Lagan Stream. If you want to learn more about our work or attend our events, go to the Ashling Events website, www.ashling-events.com. Slán go fóill, gur maith a séisteacht.